Hello, we are in the Bulan Institute in Geneva, and we have a great honor to be with Ambassador of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, Dr. Suraya Dalil. Dear Ambassador, thank you for your time, for being with us today. The Bulan Institute is a research institute that works on Central Asia, and of course, Afghanistan is a very important country for us. And we are hoping to talk about the security situation in Afghanistan and how the security challenges are affecting the education system. And can we start first with a question about human security? In 2017, the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan issued a report which said that the security situation remains intensely volatile. How could you assess the current situation in your country?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm glad we are talking about a very important subject for my country and for the region. Security situation in Afghanistan remained tense. Incidences has sharply increased in the last couple of months. We have recently seen suicide attacks, complex attacks in Kabul, in Jalalabad, in Kandahar, and in many parts of the country. In fact, as we speak, it was only a few days ago on 28th of January that, given the civilian casualties happened in Afghanistan, the government announced a national day of mourning where the flag of Afghanistan was half raised inside the country as well as outside the country. So that is the magnitude, that shows the magnitude and the scale of the security situation, and especially attacks on civilians, attacks on hospitals, on schools, universities, mosques, radio and TV stations, and many public places where the target has been civilians and largely women and children. This has been a matter of concern for the government of Afghanistan. This has been a matter of concern for all Afghans who love the country, of course, and who are dedicated for a better future for the nation and for the country.
And I would like to ask about the opportunities of children for education, of course, and how the security challenges are affecting the education system as a whole, and how the Afghan government can protect the system for children and to give children a chance to study.
The conflict and insecurity has greatly impacted education system. It has an impact on both supply and demand. On supply side, the impact has been on the infrastructure, on the schools building, on teachers, and especially female teachers, on being able to send textbooks and learning materials to schools. And the entire education system in terms of the supply has been affected by security. It has also affected the demand side of the education system. Access to education has been limited in the areas which is controlled by anti-government forces. Population movement, internally displacement, has also affected children's access to regular education in a sustainable and meaningful way. We should also remember the background. Taliban, when they were in power from 1996 to 2001, they banned girls' education. Of course, yeah. Girls couldn't go to school. And there was institutional discrimination against girls' education throughout the country. The country at this stage, the people themselves, families, they're very much interested to attend school, to send their children to school. We have realized as a nation the value of education and what it brings to the society and to the individuals. However, the situation in terms of conflict, in terms of landmines, in terms of security, in terms of access to schools have been severely undermined. Taliban has put on fire a number of schools, especially in remote areas, which severely limited access to education in those communities. The government of Afghanistan is committed toward education, and especially in girls' education. Government has invested to a great extent on curriculum, on making sure that Afghanistan villages and districts and provinces have access to schools, and they have teachers, and teachers are competent and skilled with regards to teaching and learning and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. You mentioned that Taliban put on fire on school, and can I ask the question, do you have any data or statistic about schools destroyed or taken over by ISIS, or in some instances, or just closed as a precaution?
The security situation is also fluctuating. Taliban come to a district, they capture the district, and then security forces kick them out. And that's why those closure of schools are not a fixed figure where we can certainly tell you that number of schools have been closed. But overall it has been affected, given the situation, given the realities, and especially when it comes to the girls' education. Data and reports from Afghanistan shows that girls' education are affected from a number of factors. The first one is distance to school. Remember, we are a mountainous country. We have places which is really hard to reach, and there are villages which are scattered. So one factor that affects access is the distance
to reach the school.
Yeah. Another factor is teachers or female teachers, especially for girls. The higher the girls' students goes into their education, the more the demand for female teachers. It's a cultural issue. It's also associated with the cultural values, but that is also in part of the country, the demand for female teachers is high. The third factor, which has been documented in Afghanistan, is a very practical factor, and that's sanitation or toilets for girls. Again, this is a very practical example of showing how things could cause a girl student not going to school. Let me also tell you that from my experiences, other investments and developments that happen in a community will indirectly affect girls' education. I remember in one of my discussions with one of the communities in Afghanistan, one of the mothers told me that her daughter is able to go to school now, and she was not able to go to school previously. This is because now her daughter doesn't need to spend time to fetch the water. So making sure that those communities have access to clean water, and that access is widely available, then children will have more time to allocate on learning and on education.
Of course, this means that not only security challenges, but social problems also affecting the opportunities of girls for education. Yeah. I would like to share with you some data. I don't know if you agree with them or not. Human Rights Watch issued a report last year saying that 2/3 of Afghan girls say don't attend schools, and 3.5 million children in Afghanistan, they don't go to school, and 85% of them girls. Do you think that these statistics, what is your perspective on these statistics, and what the strategies of the government would be to tackle this problem?
enrollment in private education is relatively good in Afghanistan, which means that children, girls and boys, enroll into the primary education. The problem is their retention in the school, especially when they go to the higher level, the middle school and the high school, as well as their continuum of education through the higher education system. That is where we really have problem, and that's where the actual impact of education happens in terms of literacy, in terms of knowledge, and even transformation. So our priority, the government priority is to have children into the school, but also to keep them along the chain of the education and make sure that they graduate and they continue their higher education. And that has been a challenge for us. Again, different factors affect this continuum of education. Security challenges, sociocultural challenges, early marriages, which is also part of the cultural issues, for example, and then the belief and the perception toward education, especially toward girl children. Those are multiple factors affect not only access but also keeping those children into these school years.
Yeah, following on this, could you tell us more about the role of Afghan women in rebuilding the country and maintaining peace? And what is the strategy of the Afghan government to involve women in governance and in shaping the future of Afghanistan?
Afghanistan Constitution says, this is Article 22 of Afghanistan Constitution, that women and men have equal rights and duties before law. In our region, this constitution is a unique, and it's a constitution that promotes equal rights for the citizens. We have in our constitution, the state has given the duty to ensure social justice, human rights, human dignity, and equitable and sustainable development. And I'm very proud to say that those values and those commitments are enshrined in our constitution. The government is very much committed toward education as well as girls' education, and there has been a lot of investment to make sure that the girls' educations are taken into consideration. We have a dedicated Ministry of Education, and we also have a Ministry of Higher Education that looks into the higher education program. Afghanistan government believes that education is an important key, is an important solution for a number of problems and challenges that the country faces at this stage, whether it's poverty, it's fundamental extremism, violence, narcotics, and within that effort to overcome all these, education plays an important role into this country goal.
Dear Ambassador, I have a very important question to ask. There are some traditions practiced in many countries, including Afghanistan, for example, polygamy, underage marriage, and honor killings. And we would describe these traditions as a crime against women. And as a woman, as a mother, as an ambassador, what do you think? How we can stop these traditions? And what is the position of the Afghan government regarding these traditions?
We have laws and regulations that prohibit violence against women, that promote social justice and equal opportunities for men and women. We have a very dynamic and educated First Lady who takes the lead on women's issues. In our Attorney General office, we have got a new Deputy Attorney General on issues related to violence against women. In our ministries, we have got gender and human rights directorates that promote gender and human rights in the workplace and in the policies that each institution carries. So those have been steps that have been taken to fulfill the big goal. However, underage marriage, malnutrition, violence are still a fact, a challenge that many women face those realities. Rule of law, a society that's just and with Islamic values will help to overcome those challenges gradually. I believe girls' education is important for the public policies. It affects not only literacy, it affects maternal and reproductive health, it affects child health, it affects family well-being, it affects economy of family and the income and the economic situation of the families, but it affects the individuals and the families and the entire society. In many situations that we face today and we want to solve them, whether they are narcotics, corruption, conflict, women play a great role. And women cannot do that if they are not educated, if they cannot read and write. So the bottom line is for them to make sure they are able to read and write. My mother was educated. My mother went to university. My mother went to university in Kabul in the late 1960s. And that's why she made sure, she helped us, or she assured that her children go to school, and we not only go to school, but we also complete our school. That understanding has been created in Afghanistan. That realization has been growing in Afghanistan. However, the security, the terrorism, the conflict has severely affected the life and the well-being of the nation.
I have a last question, dear Ambassador. Given your extensive experience with the international organizations, could you tell us about the role of international community in rebuilding of Afghanistan? What can be done better, or what kind of obstacles they face while operating in Afghanistan?
I'm Afghanistan ambassador in Geneva for the United Nations and also for Switzerland. I should tell you that we are also very much committed to the core human rights conventions. Afghanistan has acceded the Convention on Civil and Political Rights and Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights in 1983. We signed the CRC, Convention on the Rights of the Child, in 1994. And we joined the Convention against all forms of discrimination against women in 2003. So we have very serious commitment toward international core conventions. Afghanistan was among very few Muslim countries who supported the approval of Universal Declaration on Human Rights in 1948. That's because the country believes in a universal standards of human dignity. That is the background we have. That is the backing we have toward what we are doing in the country. Protection and promotion of human rights, which includes rights to education, is a key matter for the country.
Of course. And could you elaborate on the role of international community in helping to your country?
Yeah.
And what can be improved, in your opinion, in the collaboration between international community and Afghanistan?
International community to help us to build our systems, to build our national security system, our defense system, also our education and healthcare systems. Help us to ensure rule of law, help us to ensure that social justice, human dignity, and equitable and sustainable developments as indicated in our constitution are fulfilled. Help Afghans to help themselves. Help our institutions to be set up and to be empowered to perform in an efficient and effective way. This would be a journey, a long journey. This is not a short journey with a short time frame. And that's why we need international community's engagement. We need them to stay with us, to help us hand in hand to have a prosperous country. This is not only for Afghans. This is important for the region. This is important for the world.
Dear Ambassador, thank you for your time and thank you for your insightful answers. And I believe that Afghanistan will be a peaceful country in the future. And Bulan Institute is working on Central Asia, and Afghanistan will remain a very important country for us. And I'm sure we will meet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for reflecting my voice in your program, in your institute. I wish you all the best, and I hope that the collaborations between our countries remain fruitful.